Okay, we're going. But yeah, the part of it which is what we started on is that that labor shortage is real. Like we're
time.
and I put it this way. It's funny actually. EJ doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He made a good point. So I was basically telling him how I also just had to fire someone too, which sucks. So anyone out there who's like, oh, all these managers and capitalists like love raiding the bones of their poor employees. It's like, nope, fuck that. Firing her on Monday sucked. It was awful, and she deserved it and was not good at her job, but was a good person and was earnest. But like, she couldn't do the job. And her responsibilities were bleeding into other people who had to pick up after her. But like, even in that situation where it's almost like, hey, we're losing money because of you. I should be like happy, quote unquote, because when we get rid of you, it like looks better on our P&L. Mm-hmm. It's like, nope, that sucked. Yeah, that was really shitty.
Yeah, in my last two jobs, I was in a supervisory managerial role, and I was glad that I didn't have to hire or fire people. Because it's never something that like doesn't weigh on you.
Yeah, if you're a person. Yeah,
if you're like a real person. If you're not like a petty tyrant.
Yeah, right.
Or like a sadist.
And there are people like that out there, but I really haven't. And again, small bubble, but we all live in bubbles. Small bubbles, small relative sample size. It's like no one enjoys that shit.
No, I mean
it's crazy.
I remember when I was a kid, my mom worked for the YMCA, and she was like in their corporate world, and like she had to fire people. She had to hire and fire people, and like it was like the worst part of her job.
Definitely,
it would like ruin her week.
It ruined my week.
And like she was in like fundraising, and like she wasn't in like finance or like the cutthroat corporate side. She was in like fundraising and like community organizing and like the fun part where they like help people and set up daycares and like raise money to like build a new swimming pool and stuff like that,
cool.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
She'd have to like fire the like old janitor because they cut the budget, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it sucks, man. But yeah, labor shortage is real, and to shift gears, and you gotta wonder. I mean, is it maybe because unemployment is? I think it's.
So Biden it is because of that.
I mean, yeah, Biden is extending it to $16.25 an hour right now.
Yeah.
Right?
So what I was gonna say. Sorry.
Not to cut short our commiseration.
Well, we can go. I mean, it bleeds into one another. But our mutual friend was saying, hey, like this is the additional COVID created additional unemployment benefits. Additional unemployment benefits and length have forced the private sector.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you, but COVID didn't create anything.
You're correct.
The
government's response.
The government made it illegal to do business.
You're right.
The government locked you in your house and made it illegal for you to do business.
Correct.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're right. The corporate government infrastructure that drives that is attempting to drive and shape the way we look at labor and business increased unemployment, amounts and length, and what that does basically, and how we're seeing it. And I'm not even in like the service industry, right, which is the biggest one who's most affected by these labor shortages, right? Are more transactional type of positions, minimum wage adjacent type of positions. But the position that I'm in as someone who hires and etc. Is how I was describing it is our $40,000 a year person, we now have to pay like $55,000.
Yeah.
Because they're incentivized. They have I'll put it to you this way: our biggest competitor is unemployment and state-driven infrastructure. Yeah. And what our buddy was saying was, that's a pretty slick way to increase the minimum wage. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty slick way to increase wages. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and I'm pretty, I see through things pretty clearly. Mm-hmm. But that was a kind of an aha moment. I was like, wow, that's, because it's a very good example of the insidiousness of, we have a ideologically driven, which there are ways that I can see both sides on this, but anyway, you have a very ideologically driven proposition, right? How do we get private business to pay more, right? That's kind of the ideological perspective. Normal people can argue that that's like not a thing. Austrian economics is, worth is worth and value is value, etc. But there's a proposition that says, how do we get these evil private capitalists to pay more? And you can do it from a transparent. Now, again, agree or disagree, you can do it from a transparent, hey, let's provide a regulatory infrastructure that conceivably, and I know this isn't real, but conceivably people vote on, and the representatives that people voted to get in can, do their yes or no vote. Mm-hmm. That would be the democracy way, right? It would be like, hey, we all agree collectively that we should impose these regulations to pay people more, and we're gonna do it in the right way. Or we can manipulate the other pieces of government infrastructure to force businesses to fulfill the objective that we have for them. And that's what's happening. That was like a clicking moment for me when it's like, wow, of course you can't through a democratic quote unquote means raise the minimum wage, say, hey, everyone that you pay 40 grand a year, pay 50 grand a year. But you know what we can do? We can manipulate unemployment. We can manipulate another part of this is COBRA. We can manipulate COBRA. We can manipulate paid family leave. We can manipulate the other levers of regulation to achieve this goal. And that's it's scary because it's happening, and you're like, oh shit, we actually have, because the other more short-term downsides is like, well shit, because now we just ate up 15 grand. Sure hope folks didn't want bonuses this year. Yeah. Sure hope didn't we want, cost of living raises this year. Mm-hmm. So that's the short term. The long-term shit is like, fuck, our biggest competitor is the federal government. Damn it.
So it's the
state government or whatever.
It's the person putting the stick in the spokes of his own bike, right? So the person on the bike is government, and the bike is free market capitalism. Yeah. And they say, oh no, coronavirus, and they put a stick in the bike and it crashes, and they say, look, capitalism isn't working.
This bike sucks.
This bike sucks. We need big government. I would say socialism, but it's not really socialism.
I know what you mean.
We need a command economy, right? Which is what they want, right? They want a Chinese style command economy. Yeah. So if unemployment is paying $15 an hour, right, and companies have to offer as their entry level like $16.25, that means that you're effectively going and you're working your job for $1 an hour.
Yeah, right? That's right.
You're not going in and you're working for $16 an hour, because you could stay home and get paid $15 an hour for nothing. Mm-hmm. So you're going in and you're working for $1. For $1.
Yeah, that's right.
So what happens, right? So the government keeps printing money, right? They keep printing money. They keep sending out unemployment checks month after month, year after year. Inflation keeps going up. Cost of materials keep going up. When inflation happens, your money, the savings of the working class, gets worth less and less. When that crisis hits, anyone who's in a contract that's worth a lot of money, say property, say loans, mortgages, commercial real estate, that contract
means nothing.
Means nothing.
It's like when you get, it's the reason. This is a stupid analogy.
So the point I'm trying to make is all of the uber wealthy who own your apartment building that you live in, who own the shopping malls that all of the stores lease their shops in, that own their marinas and their restaurants, they will just own all their buildings, and your savings will become worthless. Right. You will lose your small business, and Bezos will just be able to own all of his buildings.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too because the so basically that argument is like the assets versus wealth argument, I guess.
Yeah, when the currency becomes worthless, physical assets is the only actual.
Which is what's interesting about Bitcoin and digital too, because I hear it's funny because I should
do a whole episode. I have some friends who are like super into crypto. Yeah, and I'm starting to get into it, but I'm largely pretty ignorant on it.
Me too.
So like we should do a whole thing.
I have but it's well, what's interesting about that, I don't know if he's changed his tune on this, but we both like Peter Schiff.
Yeah, I like Schiff. Yeah, and he's a Bitcoin denier.
Yes, that's my point. Is like I like Peter Schiff, and Peter Schiff is kind of the ultimate like Austrian spokesperson.
Yeah,
I guess there's probably someone else, but I consider Peter Schiff to kind of be the ultimate Austrian economics spokesperson, which I probably agree. I don't know, whatever. As much as I can agree with anything, on. And it's interesting when I hear his distaste for crypto because he's not talking out of both sides of his mouth, but conceptually he is a little bit, because he talks about hey, you can only assign value to scarce resources, like that's how it works. And I get it when he says digital currency doesn't have inherent value. Yeah, and this just lends itself to your point, which is really we're not going to be trading crypto. We're going to be trading like houses, or not even houses, but what stuff.
Yeah, I really just know he doesn't like it. What's his? If you could get, what's a quick rundown on his rationale for his distaste for crypto?
I don't want to put words in his mouth, but my understanding is exactly that argument. It is not tethered to anything material.
Yeah, I mean I'm a bit of a pessimist. Like my thing with crypto is like, what happens when you don't have power? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when I was setting up a wallet, because I've had Coinbase for a while.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
And so I was talking to one of my big crypto friends. He's like, yeah, Coinbase is great, but like it is a centralized platform. You will get 1099s from the government for like your gains.
Right.
You should set up like other wallets and use third party things. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, the whole point is like if you can be taxed on it, it's like not.
Yeah, well, I was trying to set it up, and I'm like, I texted my friend, and I'm like, dude, Coinbase is asking me for my driver's license. Like, what? And he's like,
what is this?
He's like, yeah, and so he was explaining some stuff to me, and
right, that's a good point. Yeah.
And
what the fuck is this?
Right?
Yeah.
Like I was like, isn't the whole point that I don't have to put my fucking driver's license on this? And I was like, so hypothetically, like, can I get it on my computer? Do I have to use a smartphone? He's like, well, this one's just for your smartphone. He's like, I haven't tried on my PC. I bet you could. I'm like, dude, you have like 4 mining rigs and you don't have it on your computer? Yeah. I'm like, what happens if you break your smartphone? He's like, I haven't thought about that.
Right.
I'm like, well, I am.
Yeah.
And I have a hand crank solar lantern.
Yeah.
And like backup charge packs in case like a fucking EMP goes off. And I need to access my external hard drives of fucking prepper.
Or just like a regular
kits.
Brownout.
You know
that happens in California every year.
Like every year.
Yeah.
Like we're 3 days of no power and sandwiches from people going feral, bro.
Yeah. Right.
So that's my big concern with crypto, which is it like admittedly kind of wacky,
I think it's conceptually correct.
Yeah.
Or maybe academically correct.
And I think it is. I
would say it's unlikely.
I'd say it's unlikely, and it's also in that scenario. I think that's something that we could probably pretty easily bounce back from.
This is what I mean.
You know what I mean?
Like a true like loss, quote unquote, seems unlikely.
Yeah, it'd be pretty easy for people to just figure out how to turn the power back on.
Correct. This is what I mean. Yeah. But intellectually, you're not wrong.
Right. Like, what do you do until you turn the power back on?
Correct.
Do you just sit with your Bitcoins and your Ethereum and your Dogecoins in your wallet, and while other people are trading silver and bullets?
Yeah. Right.
So that's my only concern. Having said that, I have no faith in fiat. Like at all.
Absolutely.
I have no faith in the US dollar.
Correct.
I like see a major collapse coming soon.
Yes.
Like whenever inflation gets to this point, like whenever raw materials get to this point, whenever consumer goods like get to this level, it does not spell good things for the economy.
Yeah. No, certainly. And I mean, so the Schiff thing, which is kind of interesting, is like the Schiff thing is
And I would like to get rich, and I think
Right.
crypto is looking like, if you want to get rich in the next 10 years, crypto is probably the way to do it.
The Schiff thing is also a little because he says going back to gold, which and to
I
me
like that idea.
and so do I. But here's where I'll just poke a hole. Maybe I could definitely be wrong about this, but here's where I'll poke a hole, and it is like gold is also an arbitrary value store.
Yeah,
it's like gold. He makes the argument
it would
that
also
like,
cause problems. I mean, Churchill forced Britain to go back to the gold standard.
Yeah.
I think in the 20s, and like it really fucked them up. Like
right.
it caused the depression as well.
Yeah. Here, vamp for a second. I'm just gonna text this.
Yeah. So it is an arbitrary standard. Have at least, in a way. I mean, you'd have to expand more on that. I don't see how it could be any more arbitrary than what we're doing right now. I would have. There's no way I see it as less arbitrary.
Right. Yeah. So the thing, so do I, because the thing that Schiff says is like, well, gold is and I'm gonna get this wrong because I'm not like an engineer, but he's like, gold's like a good conductor. Gold, like, he makes the argument that like gold can do a lot of things.
It can
as a material.
Yeah, it can.
And he's like, because the fact that it's very useful materially is part of the reason why it has that value. And to me, it's like that seems weak. You know what I mean? It's like it's not that material.
There's material
like
value.
Food is a
there's
more
aesthetic value. There's lots of value to gold. There's been inherent value to gold since like civilizations have been able to find it.
Right. If you're, I want to go back to the gold standard.
I mean,
so I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth.
It can be precious metals. It doesn't necessarily have to be gold.
Correct. And the point is,
commodities in general.
It has to be something.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. And this is just a tweaking thing. It's like, it's like it just seems interesting that it's like, well, Bitcoin doesn't have any value because like you can't do anything with it, and it's like fair enough. But to me, it's like, well, like how valuable is gold also? Like that's like kind of silly, like that's you can't like, you can't heat your house on gold. You can't light it on fire. You can't eat it. You can't, whatever. It's like grain would probably be a better store of value conceptually, although grain goes bad. so that's part of it too. But we're falling like into the weeds on it.
We're getting into mercantile theory.
I don't. Yeah, right.
With gold.
Yeah. So, I mean, the point is, you have all of these. I guess maybe the segue, which would be interesting, is let's set what would be the critical mass. What would the critical mass have to be to have infrastructure that would actually threaten fiat currency, right? So, like, how many people need to get together and start trading either Bitcoin or whatever?
It'd have to be massive inflation to the point where people like can't buy food.
So that has to come first.
Yeah.
So you think the crisis has to come before the
yes.
Like so the argument. It's not an argument. I'll posit this. Like, if I don't know, if 5 million people right now just said like, I am no longer using dollars. And I am only participating in this economy of 5 million people where we trade Bitcoin. Would that be enough to meaningfully impact fiat currency?
I don't know enough about crypto to make a rock solid assessment.
Sure.
My I guess inference would be the government would just try to find a way to tax it.
Right.
I don't think that would do much to like sway the remaining 345 million people in the country.
So this is my point. Like what's the critical? It's kind of like what I talk about when we talk about like mask mandates.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if 20% of us just stopped I believe this, I think you believe it. If 20% of us just stopped wearing masks, like it would be over.
Yeah.
So I think like and I'm guessing, I don't know these hard numbers.
Yeah.
It's like 20, I'm like, okay, 20% for masks to go.
Right.
Obviously, it's a way bigger question. So it's like, is it 30% of us stop using dollars in the U.S. and then now the dollars go away?
It's a good question. It's funny. I started reading a book called Human Smoke about the lead up to World War II, right? And that's a bunch of primary sources. And Einstein gave a speech before, like I think it was either before World War I or before World War II. And he said if even 2% of all the men in all the countries refused to go to war, they wouldn't have enough jails to hold all of them. A few years later, they had the most catastrophic war of all time.
Absolutely,
right? So it's a good question. And it absolutely, would, if 5%, 10% of America decided to stop using dollars and stop paying taxes, I suppose it could start a financial revolution that collapses the dollar, or maybe things would just keep going the way they've been.
Right.
I don't know. I think that
there's probably also examples of this in history that
probably.
I don't know. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think the Fed is committed to money printer go burr. I think they're committed to their fiat. They're committed to the petrodollar. They topple governments around the world to make sure their petrodollar stays where it is. We're seeing the last death rattle of it right now. Right. So and until 401ks and pension funds and retirement plans and insurance and life insurance policies are done in crypto. I don't see the majority of people getting off the dollar until people can't buy food and gas with their dollars,
right?
And are exchanging them for foreign currencies and precious metals, and bartering at farmers markets. Right. I don't see them switching. There are people who think it's all part the frog and the scorpion. Yeah. Right? The frog ferries the scorpion across the water, and the scorpion stings him, and they both drown. And he says, "Why'd you do it? It's in my nature." Yada yada yada. There's some people say it's on purpose, right? They tank the dollar. They bring in a central digital currency. Yeah. Right. If there was some
central meaning global digital currency.
I'm not going that far. Okay, I don't want to go full Alex Jones, eat the bugs, globalism, New World Order.
Right.
But it would stand to reason that in the next evolution of digital finance, that the U.S. government would want a centralized version of that they can more easily tax and track.
Yeah, right.
And they can cloak that in whatever sort of fucking patriotic anti-terrorism, keep people safe nonsense they want, right?
Yeah.
And they can talk about how drug dealers and sex traffickers and terrorists use cryptocurrency to conduct illegal dark web transactions that can't be tracked and located, and that it's more important than ever that we get resources to the government to help fight these cyber crimes that put you and your kids in danger. And that if we're going to make sure that we can spend money safely on the internet, that we have a unified currency.
Yeah.
And if we're gonna have all these different coins and all these different tokens and all these different funds, then the federal government has to be involved.
So this is kind of like the Michael Malice. This is where this is fun, enjoyable.
Yeah.
This is where the Michael Malice is a Fed thing is funny.
Yeah.
Is because it's what if all these Bitcoin folks are just feds?
I'm sure some of them
pushing Bitcoin or any other digital currency, because doesn't it? If you are a fugitive? Let's assume you're a noble fugitive. You're running from COVID lockdowns, and you opened a bar, and whatever. The feds are actually coming for you. Now you're they're going to put you in jail. Would you rather use Bitcoin or cash?
Cash.
What do you know what I mean? If you so what if all these people like Ben Askren, who I really like and who's big in crypto and who's big into yes, okay. Ben Askren's awesome. He's big into crypto. He's big into he's one of us, the whole thing. Decentralization, Ron Paul. He's great.
Okay, cool.
What if Ben Askren is a useful idiot that is now creating the vaccine passports of money?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so
because Bitcoin. Hold on, let me finish this. Yeah. Because Bitcoin sounds a lot easier to track than stashing cash under your mattress.
Well, yeah. So this is like now you're going to some anarcho-primitivist, agorist, like Ted Kaczynski, return to nature, hoard silver and precious metals type shit. Here.
Well, yes, because
this is what the anprims say. This is what the anarcho-primitivists say. All of this is techno-futurist lies.
Yes,
that's
what I mean.
That are meant to trap you.
Right.
In the hamster wheel.
Bitcoin just sounds like your social security security numbers attached to your money.
So here's what I'm learning, right? So me and you are still like real novices on crypto, right?
Yes. Here's another thing.
Yeah.
We're both fucking retarded.
We're retarded. We have no idea what the fuck we're talking about on crypto.
So this is why this is funny and fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Do that.
But what I've been told is that
the Winklevosses are fucking feds, man.
Is that the Winklevosses are feds.
They definitely
and they're just mad. They're just mad that their CIA handler dumped them for Zuck the Cock.
Correct.
In college.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He gave their handler a better reach around at the Skull and Bones Club in college, and he dumped the Winklevosses.
That's definitely true. I love. This is great. I'm so happy that we're. Yeah.
But so like Bitcoin and a lot of the other coins from what I understand is you still have to exchange it for fiat, right? Like Bitcoin, you still have to exchange it for fiat.
When you say I have one Bitcoin, you are saying I have $70,000.
I have 70,000. Is it 70,000 now? Is that what it's up to?
But it was 69, and there was a dip. But whatever. But right, the point is, what you're saying when you say you're not saying I have one Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You're still saying I have $50,000.
Right. And if the inflation
and if you speak in those terms,
right,
then what the fuck does it matter?
If the inflation continues and those dollars are worthless, what does it matter? What does it matter?
Yes.
But from what I've been told from my crypto friends is that with the diversity of coins that are being made, and these coins have their own exchanges in which they're funding other coins, which are then have their value in other countries, and some of them have values in I think not fiat markets, like other markets. I don't know.
Yeah, mining and shit.
Yeah, I don't fucking know. I think
it's actually tied to commodities.
I think there are types of crypto that don't just need to be exchanged for fiat. I think crypto people have realized this years ago.
Definitely.
And have been working on and developed a solution for the problem, the endemic problem of having to switch it for fiat.
So the other, and this is your speaking out like kind of what I meant like 10 minutes ago when I'm like, hey, if we have 50 million people just trading Bitcoin.
Because it's a pretty obvious problem.
That
they probably recognize.
Well, and I think, there's a guy that I like who does a show that I like. I talk about it all the time. I wonder if we could get him on. We probably could. His name is Matt Carano. He's probably gay, which is the joke. That's cool. Anyway, it's a Kirk Minahan Inside World joke.
Yeah. Pretty gay name.
But he's good. He's like a very optimist libertarian. Like he's not like a black-pilled. Actually, you probably know this better than I do. Like he uses the term I'm probably gonna not pronounce this correctly. Like voluntarist.
Voluntarist. Yeah.
Voluntarist.
Yeah, that's Magnus Pro Vita.
Okay.
The Boogaloo Boy.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay.
He's that too.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because that maybe I'm wrong because of Magnus.
That's if Unity wasn't gay. That's if Unity 2020
gotcha.
thing wasn't gay.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah. That's legit.
Yeah. I hear you.
And Magnus Pro Vita is gay.
Yeah.
He's like bisexual or something. Yeah.
Interesting. Nobody's bisexual, but fine.
Well, yeah, he's whatever. I don't know what his pronouns are.
I'm making a joke. But really though, nobody's bisexual. Anyway, my point is he's this guy Matt Carano, who I like a lot, is very much he's not into I don't want to put words in his mouth either. But he seems to not be so much into crypto. He seems to be into blockchain. Yeah. Which is
crypto?
Well, this is what I don't really know. But I think it touches on. I think that's. You said all these smart crypto folks thought about this. Yeah. But my understanding, and I don't know. Again, we're fucking retarded. But you see kind of like the crypto people being like, oh, let's get rich and fucking like, you know, buy the dip and that stuff. But then you see like blockchain people who are like, no, blockchain is like a secure two-way methodology for human beings to interact that seeks to digitally represent a more altruistic form of a free market. It's like and so we are not, and I'd like to have him talk about it. And he wrote a paper that I'm explaining how I understood it, but maybe I'm wrong. And it's like, we're not talking about Bitcoin, even though we are. Like, we're talking about blockchain. And blockchain is the platform with which voluntarists can interact in a more altruistic way.
So I have one.
Did I explain that at all?
So I think so. And here's going to be my retard addition to that.
Okay.
So I had one that was recommended to my friend, Algo. And the way he described it to me is you buy it and you get a substantial return on it, right? Because you buying it represents like a stake in it. And
this is what he talks about.
And
yes,
you reminded me of it.
This is what he talks about.
Yeah, and it represents a stake in it, and that is attractive to more people who want to buy it. And as more people buy it, you as a representing the value of it get a piece of the new value as more people buy into it.
I mean,
and that increases your initial investment, or that initial investment, regardless of how much money you initially put in.
I mean, so I think you're right, and I think you're describing it, and my first thought was, like, how is that different than just, like, regular venture capital?
It's exactly the same as a savings account 60 years ago, before they removed us from the gold standard.
So it's like a mutual...
let the central bankers rape us.
It's like an actual credit union mutual company.
Correct.
It's like a real one.
Yes.
The shareholders are the members.
Correct.
And blockchain is the It's just, and so now my only question. So my question would be to folks who is it? Argo.
This is Algo. It's short for Algorand.
Okay.
It's one of the few cryptos I invest in because my smart crypto friend told me to.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I know very little about it.
I would ask, Matt Carano. I would say, what's preventing?
I'm not a financial advisor.
No, me neither. I'm stupid. I go by Dave Ramsey, who is awesome, but kind of the point of Dave Ramsey is like,
don't take advice from me.
Well, not that. It's like it's just like, don't get into debt.
Yeah.
And like don't get
that's
don't
number
like
one.
Don't like get a credit card, not because like you could. It's like credit cards, if they're used correctly, it's like you can earn points and whatever and blah blah blah, and you get you can end up not paying any interest. But Dave Ramsey's point is like, nope, you're too stupid and irresponsible to have a credit card.
Yeah.
So don't ever get one.
Yeah.
So it's like that's what we do. It's like you are too it's like. Just do these things and you'll be, and it worked out. It's fine. We have, I'm not rich, but I'm wealthy and I have assets because we do shit like that.
Oh,
anyway, sorry. Real quick, I would say my only question would be to, the blockchain folks, what are the safeguards that will ensure that blockchain will not just turn into what credit unions turned into?
I don't know.
It's like that.
No
what
idea.
you're it's like, hey, what you're describing is what you're right. It's like what you're describing is a credit union from 50 years ago, which was like a good thing, and members were shareholders and the whole thing. But those got corrupted.
Yeah.
So why will blockchain not be corrupted?
No fucking idea.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
But that is the argument that I hear from those folks. It's like, and again, this is where I say it's like it's not about. And again, I don't know. I'm retarded.
And they might have a reason. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, and this is where I go back to it. It's like it's not about like Bitcoin or Dogecoin. Like it's about blockchain.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I shouldn't say this. I think I do get what it means conceptually. What inoculates that from all the, and maybe the answer is like, you know what? A decent answer to that might, and this gets more metaphysical. A deeper answer to that might just be, it will be infiltrated, but it's buying us another 100 years.
Yeah.
And that may be an answer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, no, it's not fundamentally, protected from these forces. It's just new.
And also, I don't want.
And that's a pretty good answer.
Yeah, and I don't want to get it twisted. I still think it's a good thing, and I still think that the more parallel avenues,
me too,
and
by the way, yes.
parallel environments that like we create outside of like the control of like the government is good. And
totally,
like
absolutely.
And there's a lot of criticisms that are getting levied on it right now. That, like for instance, like a big one is like Elon is about to host SNL. And there's a big criticism that Doge is going to like hit $1, and that Elon and all the whales are going to pull out their millions of Doge coins and like.
Does Elon have Doge?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He has a ton of Doge.
Interesting.
And that they're all going to pull out, like all the big whales who have tons of Doge are going to pull out when it hits its peak, and then everyone else is going to get caught holding the bag. But I mean, anyone who has Doge, if it hits $1, they're going to make out like fucking bandits.
Absolutely.
So like even if you have 100 Doge or 1,000 Doge, or even if you have 50 Doge, you're going to make like a fucking bandit.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, whatever. But like regular people and a rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
That's capitalism.
Correct.
Right. So I think it's good. I think crypto's good.
So do I.
Even if it's like even if we have doubts about like the efficacy of the system or like how viable it is in the long term, it's like anarchism. All the arguments against anarchism are actually really mostly just arguments against the current status system.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like yes, there might be some viability of that argument against anarchism, but that can already be applied currently to the system we're in right now.
Yeah. Yes.
Change gears from crypto, because we should do a full crypto episode with someone who knows what they're talking about.
We should.
Did you see the interview with the Azerbaijani president and the BBC reporter lady?
No. Kathy Newman?
No. I think it was BBC reporter.
Or Helen Lewis?
So Azerbaijan and Armenians are like, they're murdering each other right now, right?
I know that they just acknowledged the Armenian genocide.
Yeah, Biden did.
That seems like a good thing.
Yeah, it does seem like a good thing.
Yeah.
Very good thing. Mm-hmm. I agree. And this isn't, I'm not making a judgment on Azerbaijan versus Armenia. I don't know who's right. I don't know who's wrong.
Yeah.
They're murdering each other. I watched the videos on LiveLeak until LiveLeak got taken down, which we could talk about as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Anyways, they're doing an interview, and the BBC reporter woman is asking the president of Azerbaijan about, rights abuses and stuff like that. For all I know, he's doing, right?
Sure.
Whatever. And he cuts her off right away. And he says, I'm not going to sit here and listen to you tell me about abusing the press and abusing human rights when you'll sit there and you'll lock up Julian Assange in your country.
Right.
When you'll shut down the press, when you'll shut down WikiLeaks, when you'll do this, when you'll do that. And he sits there and he just shit talks her. And she's like, we're not talking about that. He's like, oh, yes, we are. He's like, we absolutely are. And the reason why I bring it up isn't because, I think Azerbaijan is great or whatever. But it's like, it's showing there, and then like a few months ago when we had our diplomatic summit with China, and the Chinese ambassador just like shit talked Tony Blinken the whole time.
Right.
And was just like, the American delegation has no position to talk of authority on anything,
right,
human rights wise. Like we just like completely lost.
Yeah.
Like this position of like moral or legal authority.
Yeah, it's just the Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like because of like the liberal establishments, like just like blatant two-faced,
absolutely,
like disregard for international law.
Well, it's like
like truth.
It's I was seeing this this morning. It's like people there's and I don't the particulars I don't care to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like there's whatever some other bot manufactured fucking rising to the top on Reddit. The Trump. It's funny too. It's like the Trump Justice Department, like Trump. Like
not even the president.
Exactly. Yeah. The Trump Justice Department, like, basically, like, they didn't wiretap. It's like, and it's the other side of it is like they didn't even like do it well. It's like the Trump Justice Department knew or was able to determine incoming and outcoming calls from like certain Washington Post reporters. And it's like, do I think like the government having do I think any government doing that is bad? Like, yes, obviously.
Wait, so you're telling me that the White House has caller ID?
Yeah, pretty much.
So
yes.
So the most secure, one of the most secure buildings in the nation housing the most exclusive people who do the most secure work screens their calls.
Yeah, and so the argument from like these fucking, you know, blue-haired crazies on Reddit is like literally like this is where again like they have to be bots. They can't be real people. Or at least they're NPCs.
Reddit, it has to be half bots.
Yeah.
I don't even go on that site.
So they're like and there's like non-hyperbol. Well, I mean, there's like there are people there who are like honestly arguing like, wow, look how close to a police state we were under Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the first most obvious answer is
Go back
like
to sleep.
The first most answer. It's like, and I this is where the gaslighting is so fucking strong because it's like my first instinct is like, yeah, you're right. We shouldn't participate in whataboutism about like Obama. But it's like, you fucking like, if there's a scale between like spying and police state and journalist intimidation between Trump and Obama, it's like Trump isn't even in the same zip code.
Nope.
You know? And you see all these people saying like, wow, look how close we were to a police state utopia, like, and inferring that it was Trump who's this police state utopia. And it's like, I can't, like, we are actually speaking a different language. It's like if you are not a bot and you're a human, because there's some of them, the bots just produce the, you know, the dopamine response of the people.
It's because of the corporate press, and it's because, of the universities.
Right.
One screen, two different movies, right?
Yeah.
Like we saw it with the Chauvin trial, we saw it with the BLM riots,
right?
Like we saw it before that with Obama, right? We saw it all through the Trump presidency.
I mean, it's coronavirus versus the Iraq War.
Coronavirus, like and
coronavirus is Iraq.
Yeah, and
it's the same thing.
That's the flip side. Iraq War, you had Fox News doing it, right?
Yeah, right.
Like they have filled the blue and on fucking Dem voters with this
man,
propaganda.
The left can meme so hard,
dude,
and the right can meme so hard.
It's real. They simultaneously believe that they lived under a totalitarian police state under Trump, but they also wanted that totalitarian police state to take all of our firearms.
It's crazy, dude. It's so crazy.
And lock people in their homes and stop them from going to church and opening their business.
Yes.
But they also think that totalitarian police state under Trump shouldn't be able to tell them that they can have birth control and get abortions. If you're in a totalitarian Christian police state, why are you able to go to abortion clinics?
Anywhere for free,
like
all the time. And also, if you're into bodily autonomy from an abortion perspective,
in your totalitarian police state, why
you want to make vaccines forced
in your totalitarian police state under Trump that hates immigrants? Why did he deport less people than Obama?
Correct, absolutely.
Right?
I mean,
in your totalitarian police state under Trump, why didn't he send the feds in to shut down the riots in the blue states that he hated? Oh, wait.
Yeah,
they faulted him for that.
That's right.
And they said that he withheld federal aid from the states that defied him.
I mean...
And now with the Liz Cheney thing, right? You're really seeing...
She's the worst.
You're really seeing...
The worst.
You're seeing the corporate press at their best, right? Defending the dynastic families that have funded them for generations.
I got the mega Twitter
for generations. For calling her a cunt, I
imagine.
For
calling Liz Cheney a cunt.
I'm not surprised. So you saw it for the last few years.
Not a Democrat.
You saw it for the last few years with them humanizing George W. Bush, right?
Absolutely.
A literal
painting.
A literal war criminal allowed the military-industrial complex to start an illegal war. Greenlit torture programs, fucking everything you could think of, right?
He's the same as Biden. The most useful idiot. Just a complete useful idiot.
Terrible guy. Was the worst fucking person on the earth 10 years ago. Now he's been humanized. He has candy with Michelle Obama and he paints. They've been in full effect humanizing him because the Bush dynasty is George Herbert Walker Bush was Jesus H. fucking Christ to the intelligence agencies.
Correct.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So they were in full effect, making him a darling. He's come out in full force against America First and against Donald Trump. Big fucking surprise.
Right.
Now they're doing it with Liz Cheney because she's one of the rhinos who's willing to call it what she calls the big lie.
I know. Which is
not
term.
A lie.
It's also Nazi term.
It is a Nazi term. Yeah, it's a Goebbels.
That's
right. The Goebbels.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's like you do wonder. Well, you don't wonder. So they're doing it on purpose.
So it's really it's curious that like the press come out swinging the hardest to defend the GOP members who are the most anti-Trump and also coincidentally happen to belong to the political families that are part of the dynasties that have helped ruin the fucking country.
That's right.
And plunge us into bloodbath after bloodbath.
Really, actually, foundationally wrecked everything.
Like her, whose family was the CEO of Halliburton.
Well, it's like with Romney.
What, dude?
Well, it's like you're gonna blow Romney and simultaneously.
I'm so glad he got fucking booed.
It's the greatest. It's the greatest. You're gonna simultaneously blow Romney and also.
Think he's gonna run as a Democrat in 2024?
Part of me doesn't care, but
I don't care. He's not gonna win either way he runs, but
it would be fabulous if he did. Because it would that's the icing on the cake for like. But it's like you blow Romney and you also simultaneously have these like Huffington Post articles about how like Bain and these like chop shop VC vehicles like come in and buy these media companies and turn them and fire everybody because they're not making any money. Yeah. It's like Bain's evil and Mitt Romney did all of that.
Yeah. And
now he's a darling and a saint.
Yeah, well, I mean, Trump came in and America First was a good idea, right? Because the neocons came in the early 2000s and they ruined the country, right? Like their economic policies were terrible. Like they borrowed to pay for
they were just Democrats who loved war.
Yeah,
they were the worst kind.
Well, look at the origins. Look at Irving Kristol, right? Bill Kristol's dad. The origins of the neoconservatives. They were Trotskyites. They were literal Marxists, dude. Yeah. Like, and they even said his original writing said the neoconservatives will go to whichever party will fit our means, our ideology.
Right.
Political party was not important to the neoconservatives.
No, it's not.
Just found a home within the Republicans after the religious Republicans of the Gingrich caucus, right? So like they do the Iraq war, they do Afghanistan, they do Iraq, they bankrupt the fucking country.
Correct.
Right? Then Obama happens. They spend 8 years shrieking about Obama, convincing right-wing America that they're their best fucking friend.
Right.
Right? Then when Trump gets elected and he even hints that, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing these wars.
Yes.
He gets on the stage. He tells Jeb Bush, your brother lied us into the Iraq war.
Yes.
He tells that the CIA, he says CIA bad, Bush family bad, Clinton family bad, media bad.
Yep.
So then for the next 5 years, they shriek about him. I forgot where I was fucking going.
Well, it's because it's funny. The neocons are, and again,
sorry. And so the neocons immediately become never Trumpers. Immediately after the second debate, the neocons immediately become never Trumpers.
Yeah.
And the Democrats,
the Lincoln Project,
the Democrats in their pearl clutching anti-Trump fervor align themselves with literally the most evil people in Washington.
Correct. Yeah,
literally the most evil people in Washington. This is what
Matt Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald.
Yeah. Marxist, neoconservative. What would the word be? Complete immoral free market capitalists.
Yes, right, exactly.
The worst combination. That doesn't even make sense to say Marxist and free market capitalist. It doesn't even make any fucking sense.
That's them.
But they are the most evil people in D.C.
Absolutely.
And the Democrats willingly arm in arm, locked arms with them to take down evil, mean orange man who says mean things on Twitter.
It's funny.
And then what's even worse is while that happens, Trump, who's so fucking incompetent, gets in and has no idea what to do, and hires a bunch of neocons,
John Bolton,
to run his foreign policy.
Mike Pompeo, because he just
so you have neocons on one side talking about how much Trump sucks and trying to get rid of him, and then you have neocons inside Trump's administration, not just Bolton, but fucking Pompeo.
Exactly.
And like you had the neocons outside who were like the true believers, who believe in like this grand vision for the Middle East with like America and Israel sitting at the top.
Right.
And then you have the neocons like Bolton and Pompeo, and I don't know whether or not they're just like warmongers who don't want America to get pushed around, or they're just power hungry, or they're just old school hawks. I don't really know.
I think like a Bolton it has this type of this would actually be a really good episode. I can like steal. Okay, I'll put it to you this way: I can steelman the neocon foreign policy argument pretty well, I think. Having said, like, because I believed in it for a long time. But I'm saying steelman particularly because I don't like it's wrong. Right. You know, like it's one of those. It's something that kind of that the liberals like. It's academically true, but functionally not true. You know. What I was going to say real quickly is like, you know how kind of everyone uses that cliche, like, oh, well, you know, I'm fiscally conservative but socially liberal. It's like, you know, everyone kind of says that. It's like they want to cherry pick, and I don't say that because it's also because it's not true, because I'm not. But also because it's like it's a cop out. It's like people just say that so they don't have to actually have a conversation. They just say like, well, what you're saying by that is like I'm right all the time, and nothing, and you can't ever make a salient argument against me. That's what like that phrase means. What the neocons want is like the opposite of that. Yeah. They pick the most wrong piece of every policy. It's like the polar opposite. It's like they pick the most completely indefensible position you could actually have. It's like, I want a free market unless it like helps the middle class. Yes. I want you know, I hate Marxism except when it can
corporate welfare.
Except corporate welfare. It's like I want, you know, I'm for peace, but the only way we achieve peace is by killing people.
It's almost as if they're Marxists who have used their ideology to get into the control of institutions and the state government. Yes. And then are using that to enrich themselves and their friends and maintain control of a small group of elites.
Well, this is what...
It's almost like the inherent peace that keeps happening with every iteration of Marxist philosophy. Right. Even though they all claim that's not what they do.
That's right. Yeah. And you do well. I mean, I think this is it's not just Peterson, but the Peterson makes this popular for this generation, which is you judge a person. I forget how he says it. It's either you judge a person or you know what someone. I think it's you know what someone values not by what they say but what they do. And it's like you don't not even. I guess it's not that actually. It's not judge them. It's you can infer what someone actually cares about by seeing what they do and not what they say. Yeah. Like you're gonna have, and that's a really good example. It's like you have these neocons who say I hate Marxism, but everything they do is Marxist. Yeah. So you're like, so you're not like judging them as a Marxist. It's like they care about Marxism. They value Marxism. They are Marxists.
They want to
even though they're saying they hate Marxism.
They want to take their ideology and bring it to a fucking country halfway across the world and impose it on them for their own good. Correct. Like, what's conservative about that? Exactly. There's nothing conservative about that.
That's right. Yes, that's the most illiberal thing imaginable.
Yeah, like what, dude?
Yeah. So, and it's funny. We should do that, and you would be great at this, which is why it'd be a good episode. And I think because we're coming up on some time. What I'd like to do, probably what we should also do is like set some topics. Yeah, we'll do that. We should do that. But I'd like to, and this is where I was going with like John Bolton. Like I think, like, and this doesn't, you're probably going to talk me out of this, like, instantly. But like, I from what I gather, I think, like, John Bolton is, like, a true believer. Like, he
probably is.
Like, he thinks that, and I have, like, some sympathy for this, but he's, like, the Middle East is filled with, like, savages. And they're killing each other, and they're constantly in war with each other, and, like, we really need to be the world police because it saves lives.
Whose lives?
I know, everyone's.
Whose? Prove it. That's my count. Prove it.
Yeah.
Whose lives? American lives?
Right.
Whose? When? How many? Quantifiably? How many lives?
Yeah.
When?
So
in what circumstances?
I think his.
And how do you know that?
Yeah, right.
What resources did you use to find that?
Right.
How many lives did you use to find that?
So
how many terrorist attacks did you stop?
So I think my quick answer to, and again, I'm steel manning, so I'm not going to make this as well as theirs, but I think his answer would be like, well, Western capitalism and democracy has, like, unequivocally, like, it's true that it has taken 85% of people out of absolute poverty. Like it completely,
Western capitalism has no inherent right to go and implant itself in Afghanistan,
I agree
or
with
Syria, or Iraq,
or
any country.
And my counter argument to the Steelman argument is like culture eats systems, and without culture, it's pointless.
Yeah.
But like the Bolton argument from I'm gonna just say and I'm gonna Steelman the earnest position, right? Like I think this happens is like. Capitalism taps into like humanity, which I do actually think is true. Is like when you do present this type of infrastructure, people are drawn to it because it works.
Well, but now we're talking about exporting an economic policy and economic infrastructure somewhere. We're not talking about saving people's lives. We're in a roundabout way talking about improving lives and improving quality of life. We're not talking about actually stopping the threat of death for anyone.
Well, so
that's a different thing. Now that's more of a humanitarian effort.
Well, so I agree,
and that's the sort of what's the word? Inconsistent logic common of the neocons. Is that our humanitarian effort is going and dropping bombs on people.
I agree with you. Yeah. So and here's my ultimate argument.
It's the kind of inconsistent logic that can only hold up when you have your cronies in the corporate press.
Yes.
Repeating your doublespeak.
Right.
In chyrons for you 24/7 every day.
And and
accusing anyone who doesn't agree with you of not being patriotic,
right,
and helping the terrorists.
So I agree with you.
Yeah.
I would say that there's more proof in the pudding, so to speak, because yes, we brought capitalism to China, and China's just as evil as ever.
Yeah.
It's like it didn't.
They're more efficient at being.
Now they're just better at being evil.
Yeah.
Because you're right. So the argument that John Bolton would make would be, and again, he may be making it earnestly. But whatever. The point that some brainwashed neocon somewhere would make, who is like a good person and who just believes this, and they're the argument that they would make would be, well, if people have free Western culture, like they don't kill each other. If people are free, have free, capitalism. It does save lives because people now have their interest in making money and being wealthy instead of like gaining more territory and killing each other. That's the argument. My counter to that Steelman argument is like, again, we did it to China and like they're just as evil as ever.
Right.
We've been doing it in the Middle East for 40 years now.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. Because to me, you want to know what's going to be real? What's like crazy fucked up is like I'm probably wrong because maybe I'm not wrong. It's like you wanna do the most good for humanity is you convert everyone to Christianity. It's like don't convert their economic system. That's not it. It's Christianity. That fixes people. Not like, and I'm not saying we do that because we shouldn't do that. I'm now not in that camp. But it's like if I had to pick one, and it's like, oh, make people like believe in free market capitalism. It's like no, that just makes them more efficient monsters, But it's like, oh, make them spiritually humble. That's better. Now, that's still not going to work because Islam has such a strong hold over there that it just can't work.
There have been various times where people have tried to convert the world to religions, Dan.
It doesn't
necessarily work out very well.
But it does work out well sometimes. That's
not always.
Nope, but it does. Correct. And this is why I'm saying we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
But you can make a more sympathetic argument to me to do it. You know, I mean, like you see places like.
Well, this is a good transition. Let's talk about Caitlyn Jenner and the resurgence of social values in conservative America. Because you were just talking about people say they're socially liberal or socially
socially liberal.
Socially liberal, fiscally conservative.
Correct.
Right, and I think we've seen that the conservative movement, at least that has momentum in America, the sort of the America First MAGA caucus, is starting to become more socially conservative.
Duh.
Yeah.
Because that's what works.
And I think
this is what I say.
And I think
mongrels turn everything to shit.
And I think we're seeing that in the wholesale rejection by most conservatives like Cernovich. Like Mike Cernovich, like Jack Posobiec, like James Matt Walsh,
Lindsay.
like James Lindsay, of the Caitlyn Jenner candidacy.
Correct.
In California.
Yes.
I'm interested to hear your take on that.
I mean, there's
not just Caitlyn Jenner, but the thing the whole scenario.
I mean, what do you think my take is on it?
I
mean, like this is where this is where the conservative, it's where I wish like libertarianism. I don't wish.
I thought you would like
I take that back.
A transsexual reality star that pimped out their family, who murdered someone with their car running for office. I thought you would be into that.
Well, there's an interesting. Here's where conservatives maybe could. Here's where they compromised on Trump.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not all that dissimilar.
This is what we're always talking about, where conservatives are just Democrats from 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Exactly.
Conservatism is just progressivisve driving the speed limit.
Correct. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing it right now.
Yeah,
Caitlyn Jenner running for office.
It's not I'm going to do the communist thing. Like, it's not real conservatives, but I guess it is.
Well, so I agree with you.
Yeah,
and I was listening to Daniel McCarthy, who's I think his name is Daniel McCarthy. But I was listening to who Thaddeus Russell is?
Yes.
The professor who wrote Renegade History of the United States.
I do.
He does a series where he interviews people, and he interviewed Daniel McCarthy, and I think his name's Daniel McCarthy. Nope, I fucked it up. Whatever, it's not important. But you're right. There are not really any conservatives anymore.
There just aren't.
Continue.
I'm the only one.
Keep going.
You know what I?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's this is where my conservatism can play with my anarchy, in that if Caitlyn Jenner, if Bruce Jenner wanted to govern like Calvin Coolidge, and I need to say it this way, is if Caitlyn Jenner governed and saw it through all the way through.
McCarthy. Okay, I got the name right.
If Caitlyn Jenner governed and saw it all the way through and actually delivered, kind of unlike Trump did in a lot of ways, and if Caitlyn Jenner was Calvin Coolidge, I would support him, her, them. I would support them because the conservative in me, the true actual conservative, which I still do.
Interesting.
This is like an abomination of a person, because it is an abomination of a person. That Caitlyn Jenner is an abomination of a person in every way conceivable.
You would still vote for them if they had the perfect ideology.
Because
you're a heretic.
Well, here's no. I don't think I am, because here's
to the new crowd.
Here's where I am a heretic to the because whatever. Because here's where my anarchy comes into play.
Yeah.
Which is the system that we have is blind and should not be executed by fallible. Well, no. Here's where I'm really conservative. Is that the Constitution as it's written, I get it's a speed bump or no gun zone, the whole thing.
Yep.
If we were to, and this is where I'm making my preconditions, if we were to actually govern in a constitutional republic, we part of a constitutional republic acknowledges that the human being that's executing on government is mostly flawed and evil. Because most people are flawed and evil, which is why I'm a Christian. It's like you have all of this. We recognize that man's ability to govern is really bad. Like individual people are bad at governing. There's really no such thing as like a good lever of power. So if Caitlyn Jenner came in and governed like Calvin Coolidge and left, I would vote for her. I don't think that will happen because all of the evidence that I have in front of me suggests
Terrible person.
that she's a horrible, awful monster.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
It's a very nuanced position.
So I don't believe that one is the one, and I would not vote for her. But like conceptually, if I could actually have a person who would do that, I would.
And it was Kate. Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And I think that's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Like I don't, But it's like Caitlyn Jenner is now just doing what this warped, sick, fucked culture demands of them, which is like
she sees an opportunity.
Yes, you know what I mean? Like that's all this is, and there's no opportunity.
And California has a history of these kind of opportunistic recall celebrity elections.
Absolutely, I mean,
they've been doing it since Schwarzenegger.
I was just gonna say, who was there? Not the last governor. Who was 2 governors ago?
Yeah,
was fucking. So it's like,
and they had him even before he was governor. Where they like Gary
Reagan was a fucking actor.
Yeah.
And again, the point is like I don't want. And it's not true. I don't want a lot of things should not be illegal. But a ton of things you should shun and shame.
Yeah,
that's
fine. I don't care about that. The government just don't tell me what to do.
Exactly. So that's
goddamn
where
government trying to take my freedom.
That's where I'm coming from with this, and it's what people it's where like broken brains just can't like understand it.
Well, people are just weak, man. Like if you can't handle people like shaming you, for like smoking weed or having sex or like fucking dance or whatever it is. Like it doesn't. Like, people who say, all those religious people, they exclude me and sneer, and they say this stuff, so I want the government to come in and tell them that they have to let me shop in their store. It's like, why?
I know, this is what I mean.
Why don't you just go to first of all, why do you want to give them your money?
I know, it's madness.
Second of all, why do you want to hang out at their church?
Yes.
Like, third, why are you such a bitch?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, do you just want like a petty victory? Like, do you just want the government to use their monopoly on force to make people you don't like accept you? Imagine.
Well, the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, I know. Imagine a group of people so vile that you need to make the government force you with guns to hang out with them.
Absolutely correct.
Like,
yes, this is exactly right.
And this is the whole thing. And like, I'm a pretty like anti-corporate guy. Like,
me too.
Like, but I'm not like with these like super left Marxist people. Like I'm for collective bargaining, but I'm
too.
But I'm anti-union, right? And here's not because they've become corrupted
because they're not
they don't represent the actual workers.
Absolutely,
and
it's
like,
just another big institution.
And like
yes, I totally agree with this, by the way.
I don't necessarily believe like in government like subsidized like leave and like medical leave and disability leave and things like that. I do believe in private programs advocated by the workers. So
absolutely.
Like what would I mean by that? So say like you work in a place with like 50 people and something happens and you need to take a week off and you've already used your sick time or whatever.
It's called a church, Ross.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I understand. But just for this hypothetical example, right? I know you have a church or whatever. We need to leave. Like, let's say you want the government to come in and get involved. Well, guess what? Now the government can go to every other factory of 50 people, and they can get involved in terms of funding and taxes, regulations, whatever, right? No, you and all the other 50 people in your fucking factory should say, hey man, we only have a week of sick time. Like, what happens if I've already used that and I need to take time off? Like, what if my wife has a miscarriage? Like, what if like my kid gets sick? Like, what if this happens? Like, no, we're gonna get together and we're gonna negotiate for better things. And if your employer tells you fuck off, you say, all right, we're not coming in tomorrow.
Absolutely.
We're not coming in. And they say, all right, you're all fired. Like, oh, you're going to fire all 50 people.
And that is how it worked.
I know. You're going to hire 50 new people tomorrow to do this job.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's Target or if it's accounting. Like, no company can go out and hire 50 people in not even a month.
We just saw a version of this with Amazon. We saw a version of this with Amazon.
You can't do it.
Absolutely.
The answer isn't to give the government carte blanche to go into every business and every company and regulate how much money you are allowed to give your workers and to just continue printing money to subsidize that, right? And it's because people are chicken shits.
Absolutely.
It's because people don't have the balls to round up everyone in their little fucking cubicle monkey office building and stand up to their boss and demand better treatment.
Absolutely.
And if they would, to use a fun commie analogy, kick down the factory worker's door and threaten to string up him and his family, well, maybe you'd get better treatment.
Absolutely.
But if you just sit with your thumb up your butt, with your $100 a week fucking Soma habit, buying your Netflix and fucking complaining on Twitter, like, yeah, I guess sure you can have your fucking UBI and your welfare.
This is what you really want. Again,
but don't be surprised.
Absolutely.
Like in a couple of years when your currency is worthless and like rich people are richer than ever.
This is where again it's like we talked about this on our last episode was the best episode I think, where we like Jimmy Dore is great, man. And me could actually come. We could have a lot in common.
It's like Jimmy Dore to all my liberal.
And this is where, and it's the same with Glenn Greenwald and like Matt Taibbi. It's like I'm for universal health care, just not the government's.
Yeah,
the government's universal health care stinks, and it's also not even like so.
Just like, why do people think? Like people go to the DMV.
Why do you think
if your doctor's office was run like the DMV, it would be any better?
I know, it's wild.
Why do you think it'd be? You just like, and I think that if you really cornered the average person on this, they would admit.
They do admit all the time.
That they know it wouldn't be better. That they know it would be as bad at the DMV, and they know on average it would be worse, but at least it would be free.
Yeah.
And they'll all say that, and you'll say, well, but what about the person that has to wait like an extra 6 months and dies,
which happens.
Well, that's really bad, but like think of all the people who get free healthcare because of that.
I know.
And like that's an acceptable sacrifice to them.
Absolutely.
Like all the people who died waiting for like cancer and heart screenings during COVID, that was an acceptable sacrifice.
Absolutely.
Like what's going to be an acceptable sacrifice tomorrow? What's going to be an acceptable sacrifice next year?
Yep. This is where, again, I'm the only, like, actual Burkean conservative alive. where it's like, you know what universal healthcare is fucking Christianity. It really is. It's the infrastructure that tells you morally to support your community and your family.
That's what it is.
I
downloaded some essays by
C.S. Lewis.
No, who fucking the guy who wrote Lord of the Rings. Tolkien on Christian socialism.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I'm a Christian socialist.
Yeah.
Socialist. Absolutely. But you know what? That's just Christianity.
I don't know. Whoever was into that.
Yeah. That's Tolkien.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
is
you should.
Those are two things I'm really not into.
You should read. This is where I'm so much more heterodox than fucking everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone in the world.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. Many people. This is what you should read is C.S. Lewis's, who was a buddy of Tolkien's and was obviously in the he's Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, etc. You should read On Christianity because that's because Lewis. I'm not sure how long. Lewis was an atheist forever.
Well, I'm starting Dostoevsky.
Yeah. So. Oh boy. If you can come out of that not believing in God, I don't know what to tell you.
Yo, he's the best novelist of all time.
He's
the best novelist of all time.
Absolutely.
I'm like 100 pages in. He's the best novelist of all time.
Are you reading Crime and Punishment or what?
I'm reading Brothers.
Karamazov.
Karamazov.
That's a great one. Yeah, he's.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So you get close. Then you're going to get into Solzhenitsyn. then you'll get that.
I already have Gulag Archipelago.
Okay.
I've already have that.
The other one you should read too is East of Eden.
You sent me that one.
It's and again it's like it's where
I'm reading Human Smoke and Sexual Personae by Paglia. Do you know Camille
I don't.
Paglia?
Oh, I do know Camille Paglia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it pronounced Paglia?
I found that I said Paglia forever, and
It's
I found
not.
out it's Paglia.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. But anyway, the point is, this is like where I get like, I am a. This is where language gets weird and whatever, but it's like, I'm a socialist authoritarian, just not from the government.
That's redundant. You know.
Just I am an author. This is what I mean. This is what I talk about language.
Yeah.
I'm like more authoritarian than like most people. It's just I don't want to force you by a gun with it. I just want to explain to you why you're way more free. And so Jocko Willink talks about this, and Jocko Willink kind of sucks. But do you know who Jocko Willink is?
Yeah. I wake up at 3:30.
Yeah,
every day.
He like
take a shit. Don't wipe my ass.
I know. And
I fucking run. I use that. I use that itch.
It's so.
I don't wipe my ass until I've run at least 5 miles.
It's so annoying and cliche, and it's like, yeah, dude, you went and killed farmers. I get it. You know, like so, and whatever. It doesn't matter. But what I do like about him is he does have this mantra, which is discipline is freedom, which is true.
Yeah.
And like the things that you conceptually believe restrain you do not. Mm-hmm. They build you into you are never more free than when you are disciplined in all elements of your life. Mm-hmm. And that's like it's not ambiguous. Mm-hmm. Ambiguous. It's not like it's true.
Yeah,
it's like the more cultural, interpersonal, familial authoritarianism you have in your life that's imposed by you and imposed in your close circle, the freer, happier, more actualized you are. It's why do you think people get dogs? It's like you yearn for responsibility. You yearn for constraint. You yearn for systems.
So we're always like it's not it can get to bring it beyond just Christianity. Like every belief system, we're always in some sort of flux between chaos and order, right?
Yeah, yeah, buddy.
And like
that's why Peterson hits every nail on the head. All the time. He's the best one to articulate it. Well, I don't care how it sounds. I think he's the only one who I've ever heard articulate my ethic and instinct.
Yeah.
And I think I'm one of a very few people who actually understands what he's talking about.
We're always
because people go right to his 12 rules is very much like a guidebook. And that's true, and I get it. But it's like the cleaning your room it's like the Dave Ramsey example I gave earlier. It's like cleaning your room doesn't matter. It's the metaphysical ritual that you're participating in.
Yeah.
That cleaning your room brings out in you.
So
that matters.
Yeah. So if you don't like maintain that balance, if you drift too much to chaos, you like become directionless. And if you are directionless, it becomes incredibly difficult to manifest anything
positive.
Don't
do anything.
Yeah, it becomes very difficult to manifest anything positive.
Yes.
And then it becomes very difficult to like overcome like any negative emotions.
You can't.
And that's when you fall into depression and anxiety and anger.
Yep.
And then when you become overcome by these things, then it becomes impossible.
That's right.
To create the order you need to succeed, and you spiral into this this pit of like chaotic disorder, right?
Uselessness,
and it just like creating a schedule for yourself, just basic things will restore a lot of like.
That's
happiness.
But people don't want to. They're like, oh, that's authority, and it's like, well, that's retarded.
Time is racist, Dan. Schedules are racist.
This is where postmodernism.
The white man created schedules and time.
This is where
native peoples didn't have time.
That's right.
They just show up when necessary.
And they also didn't do fucking anything, and their culture sucks, and they didn't do anything.
So you said something about authoritarian. Well, that's different. thing.
They
had very diverse different cultures. The thing is, they murdered each other for a few thousand
and ate each other.
They murdered each other for like thousands of years until they had wiped out 80 to 90% of their populations, and then we showed up and finished off the last 10%.
Exactly. Yeah, and they never figured out.
They had a very diverse culture. It just involved murdering and enslaving each other for thousands of years, right? Yes. A lot like ours.
Infanticide. Right? There's a great book. There's a great book called The Fatal Shore, which was written by Robert Hughes. It's actually a history of Australia, and it's very interesting. And you can tell it was written in the 80s.
Oh, the Abos, man.
Yes, it's like, dude. Aboriginal culture was fucking awful.
Oh,
it's like the most brutal, barbaric. Nobody cries about the lost culture of the Aborigines.
No,
because
I was speaking
more
to North and South America.
I know, but with the same, you can use you can use the term Aboriginal, but whatever.
But you said something about your.
It's like, wow, that's terrible.
Authoritarianism, religious authoritarianism, but not violent. Compulsory, right?
Yeah.
And that got me thinking that my girlfriend got me to watch the first few episodes of Handmaid's Tale the other day, right?
Jesus Christ.
So I watched it, right?
Because I'm a baby.
So I make her watch all my stuff, right?
Sure,
so you'll like this, right? You'll like where I'm going with this. So
sure.
I watched it.
I've never seen it.
I never seen it either, and I had avoided it because I wasn't really interested in it. And then I watched it, and the acting's good, the cinematography's good. There's a lot of money behind it, so it's good. It's based on a thing by Margaret Atwood, I guess, who's a good writer. I never really read any of her stuff. And it's all told from the perspective of the main character, played by Emily Ross, I think is her name.
It sounds right.
She's a good actress. She's been good so far. But there's not a lot of like context because it's all told from her perspective and like all the info you get from flashbacks. So like the first 2 or 3 episodes, all I'm really getting is like her life as a handmaid. So essentially how it works is it's like a near future, like I think the show came out in like 2012, 13, 14.
Right.
And I want to say it's set in like 2017, 2018. And it's like...
really? Near future?
Yeah, well, it's set like right now.
I'm sorry. It's alternate universe.
Alternate universe, yeah. And so like for whatever reason... Because remember, I haven't seen a lot of it. For whatever reason, like most people on the planet are infertile, right?
Right.
And...
They all got the vaccine.
Yeah, right, probably. Most people on the planet are infertile. And at the point that I've seen her, I don't have a ton of information when the show starts.
Sure.
She has been kidnapped by a totalitarian religious government, right? And all women who can give birth are taken and they're put into these like cities or communities that are under like martial law.
Yeah.
And they are the handmaids to the wives of the government leaders.
Right.
So the wives, because the wives are barren, right? Because they can't have kids.
Yeah.
So they do these weird like rape conception rituals where
that's exciting.
Yeah. And if the handmaids don't comply, they like mutilate them. They like take out their eyes or cut off their hands or whatever, like terrible stuff to make them comply. And if they comply, they get given like extra food and privileges and shit like that, right? So I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, this is whatever. But I'm more interested in like how it got to this point. Like I'm more interested in how in 2018 or whatever in the United States we got to a theocratic dictatorship, right? Where everyone in the country just signed on to have every childbearing woman in the country sent to a rape camp, where the theocratic elites get to do this, like with impunity, right? And there's no sort of like foreign intervention, or like insurgency or whatever, And my girlfriend keeps telling me, well, no, in season 2 there's like a revolution and there are flashbacks and you see all this stuff. I'm like, okay, whatever. She only got to season 2. There's like 3 or 4 seasons. So later that day, because I fucking can't help myself, I go online and I look up the story, right? And this is what I wanted to tell you about.
Okay.
And this is how ridiculous the premise is.
Yes. Right.
So
Margaret Atwood's a hack, by the way.
Yeah. This is what I'm getting.
Yeah.
So the premise is that they never like really give like a concrete reason as to why everyone is getting infertile. From what I understand, I went through the wiki. So it's not by no means like I didn't read the whole thing. Maybe they do give a concrete reason.
Yeah.
But it seems like a mixture of environmental factors, like plastics in the water and stuff like that,
Right.
nuclear radiation, because I guess there was some big like Fukushima-style nuclear disaster
Yeah.
in their universe, and like a number of other things, like most women are becoming infertile.
Right.
Most women are having miscarriages or like not carrying to term. A lot of babies are dying.
Yeah.
Kind of like Children of Men, if you ever saw that movie.
I
with
haven't.
Clive
I need to
Owen.
see it because it's
really
good, right?
It's
Yeah,
really
I do
good.
need to see that.
And so Emily Moss, her and her husband get pregnant, right? And she has the baby, and the baby is like 5 years old when they all get captured. But what basically happens is like there's like a religious revival in the country because no one can have babies and everyone gets back in touch with God. Which, frankly, I think the opposite would happen.
Yeah.
If no one can have babies
No,
and everyone feels abandoned by God.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't think the whole country would suddenly get like invigorated with religious spirit. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So
they would,
then-
but it wouldn't be religious.
So
It'd be
then,
status.
exactly.
But, yeah.
So then a new party starts, like the Gilead Party, which is like the religious fanatic party.
Sure.
And they're like super minority. No one takes them seriously. And like I saw some flashback scenes with the main character where her baby's 5 when they get captured, and these flashback scenes are when she's pregnant.
Right.
So 5 years before a totalitarian dictatorship is set up where all the breeding women are put into rape camps.
Yeah, yeah.
She's going out to like bars and clubs with her friends, and like there's no martial law.
Yeah, yeah.
There are no food shortages. There's nothing. No chaos, no riots.
Right.
Nothing. Everything's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything's fine.
Right.
There's no like crazy preachers on the sidewalk.
Right.
There's no mobs of people saying the end is nigh.
Right.
There's nothing. No paramilitaries. Nothing's going on. And then I read online there's like some terrorist attacks in Washington around the election, like some horrible terrorist attacks. Shit gets blown up. Martial law gets instituted. Like a military like council gets set up to oversee like the transfer of power. And then at some point, the Gilead Party does a coup d'état and takes over.
Right.
And they institute their handmaiden rape camp dungeon policy.
Yeah.
And they institute mass confiscation, nationalization,
Right.
and like rationing, and like everyone is put into like a caste system. Think like North Korea.
I was gonna
Like-
say, sounds like Woodrow Wilson.
No, yeah, you get put into a caste system
Yeah,
where
yeah.
like you're like a worker class,
Sure.
and like there's different levels of workers.
Right.
And like you have like coupons to get food at like the grocery store. It's literally like a North Korean grocery store.
Right.
And everyone just like goes along with it. Like
Yeah.
all the military goes along with it. And
Right.
like in 5 years this happens.
Right.
And like Canada is obviously against it. Britain's against it. Like
Right.
everyone has sanctions against it. Texas is its own like republic, and parts of the U.S. are like against it. It just doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So
right.
you're telling me that A, in 5 years this all happens.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Everyone, and B, when everyone couldn't have babies, then they got religious.
Yeah, yeah, right.
That this party got enough power, enough people behind them to take over the government.
Yeah.
Enough of the military to agree with them.
Right.
And they got enough of the press.
Right.
And all of the other like industry in the country to convince everyone that this was a good idea.
Yeah. And
then Texas and all of the other like southern like religious areas didn't get on board and seceded from the country and are like actively fighting you in a civil war.
Right.
What the fuck is going on?
Well, it just sounds very strange. I don't really get. I'm kind of I see everything thematically. It's like.
It seems like it seems like a leftist, feminist, masochistic fantasy of what you think a right-wing theocracy would do to you.
That's what I mean.
Without any grounding in how it would actually happen.
Well, and also, it's not. You're mistaking a right-wing phenomena for left-wing behavior.
Yeah,
like this. You're talking about command. You're talking about command economies, you're talking about rationing, you're talking like these are all tenets of the left, and this is classic. This is why again he's been compromised. But why Goldberg's liberal fascism is such an important book is it's like the Bible of liberal projectionism. It's like all of the things that the left claims the right does, the left does.
Yes. Just like tacks on like some Nazi imagery.
But exactly correct.
But it's literally just totalitarian leftism, but they're wearing all black and they put like the pink triangle that the Nazis put on homosexuals.
Exactly.
Because they kill homosexuals because they're a religious dictatorship.
Right. So I forget, and I don't know, I'll screw up the quote. But the quote, in the liberal fascism book is like the Nazis were just communisms with a different uniform. Like it's the same thing. Like they didn't, they have the same instincts of state institutionalized culture production. They wanted to kill. The hilarious thing is like all of those things kill God. Like the point of the state is to remove God, remove the nuclear family, remove
the Nazis didn't want to remove the nuclear family.
They wanted to remove the.
If your nuclear family was opposed to the right, they wanted to get rid of.
They wanted to remove the. They wanted to remove the non-state. They wanted to remove the individual family.
Yes, that's
They wanted to institutionalize the family as a means for the state to produce things.
Correct.
Yes. They did not.
They wanted to have the family be one of the smallest units of the Reich.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
The individual would be the smallest piece of the Reich.
Yes.
And above that would be the family.
Like basically, the family is just like a squadron.
Yes.
These are. You know what I mean? Like these are just
yes.
Correct. Yeah. And so they didn't. So which is why I think language is important. And again, I'll talk out of both sides. It's like they actually don't want the family. Mm-hmm. They want like a mother and a father to produce another person
for Germany. Yeah.
For Germany.
Yep.
They don't want like a actualized nuclear family unit like Western. Like the Western conception is. And like that's important.
It's right in the name. National Socialism.
Yeah, exactly.
It's right in social. It's right there.
And that's very similar. It's not exactly similar, but it's very the point is that it's similar enough.
I get it.
It's similar enough to the communists' conception of you produce for the party. Mm-hmm. You have no family. Mm-hmm. You are just creating, and if your parents are, not down with the cause, you rat them out and we kill them. Mm-hmm. If your children are not down for the cause, we rat them out and kill them. Mm-hmm. So if your family is not a unit composed of individuals. Mm-hmm. It is just another number contributing to the party. Mm-hmm. And the Nazis and the communists did the same thing. Mm-hmm. And they very much were not a part of a Western tradition of what a family is, which is a family is designed to not be the state. Like the state can't tell you how to run your family. Mm-hmm. The state can't infiltrate itself into how you raise your children. It's why things like, like public education is antithetical to what a Western democracy is, or I should say republic. Like this is, again, the Constitution creates series of negative rights to say like your family is your business and it's your conception. And, and again, it's another piece of it where it's like you're whatever. Well, you're a Christian before you're an American.
Well, it's what we've talked about it before. This is why they are coming after your families.
It's like the only reason.
Yeah. I mean, we're like, yeah, great. Subsidized childcare. Cool. Is it any coincidence that now government schools have your kids for longer?
Absolutely. Yes. And all the restrictions on every
homeschool restrictions, like they're going to fight school choice. They're going to fight charter schools.
You mentioned a little while ago in an episode we had, which I agree. It's like, again, the most like radical today, not the way it actually is, but the most like radical thing you can do is like homeschool your kids with a biblical interpretation of schooling. Like that's the most radical thing you could possibly do. Like that. Who are they going to come for?
Teach them how to 3D print firearms.
I mean, yes, and part of that is from a biblical ethic that says like, defend yourself. Carry a stick. You're obligated to protect yourself and others.
Yes,
and that's a biblical. That is a biblical teaching. Mm-hmm. That doesn't come from institutionalized Prussian learning, which is the opposite. Mm-hmm. The opposite is you are a factory drone. And we need to keep you sitting for 6 hours because you need to get used to working in a factory that's going to produce the means for the state to continue its existence. Mm-hmm. What we're going to do is we're going to invent. You want some real spicy takes? We're going to invent ADD to say that you're a 9-year-old boy, and if you can't sit and turn a widget for 6 hours a day, you have something wrong with you. So we're going to medicate you so you can't fucking move. That's what institutionalized state... ADD was invented.
If you don't like being locked in a box for 6 to 8 hours a day and being told what to do.
You are diseased.
Yeah.
And you know who's going to diagnose
you? Don't like being psychologically abused by adults.
You know what? You know what we're going to use as the diagnostic indicators? Your school says you can't sit for 6 hours.
And a doctor that's getting paid by the manufacturers of the drugs that we're prescribing.
It's like this is the and so you know how you get rid of that? Again, sorry, biblical homeschooled instruction.
Also, I mean, it's worth noting this kid's probably eating cornflakes for breakfast.
Absolutely, yes.
And fucking
yes,
Elio's pizza for dinner.
And
you know,
you're correct. Your diet is entirely carbs.
Yeah.
So you're 9.
He's probably bleached flour and fucking sugar.
You're 9 and a boy. I'm gonna send you before I send you to this place. I'm gonna give you a bowl and a half of sugar-coated carbs, and then I'm gonna tell you to sit for 6 hours. And when you don't, I'm gonna give you drugs.
Yep.
It's like we're gonna pump as much explosive behavior into a living thing as we can possibly do. We're gonna slap on. That's kind of it's a good way to wrap up because we got to wrap up.
Yeah.
It's a good way. It's a good full circle analogy of the
create the problem, charge people for the problem.
Exactly. Yeah, that is the bicycle analogy.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm riding my bicycle and I'm shoving a stick right into the spokes and I'm saying, hey, this thing's broken. This child is broken. Even though even though he's a boy, he's 9. We just gave him a shit ton of sugar and carbs, and we just put him in the worst environment possible to meet those conditions. ADD is invented.